When you're surrounded in all directions by days' worth of shifting liquid expanse, all distance becomes incalculable. Out there, your environment is always changing and always the same, and for the 1.5 million seafarers who work on up to 9-month-long contracts, this has a profound effect. These seafarers, isolated and invisible, are the custodians of the 90% of world trade that's carried by sea. They stand watch aboard hulking vessels that chug along endlessly, crossing both national boundaries and time zones as they go. Like the pirate and the privateer, the subject of the seafarer is directly informed by the sea, and how exactly this subject is produced is what this project explores. Specifically, the project asks how to exploit the ambiguous nature of the sea through the redesign of a container ship, and how this new architecture can ultimately construct a new subjectivity for seafarers. But before this is explained, here are the 3 case studies that form the basis of the design. On the 19th of November 2002, a 26-year-old oil tanker, the MV Prestige, split in two off the coast of Spain. The Prestige was built in Japan. It was operated by a company in Greece, owned by a brass plate company in Liberia, insured in England and flying the flag of the Bahamas. Like other so-called flags of convenience, the flag of the Bahamas is flown by shipping companies that want to avoid tax and labor regulations. After days of rough seas, Captain Manguras heard a loud bang and found a 50-meter rupture in the side of the ship's hull, and at this point he had the entire Filipino crew evacuated by helicopter. He then tried to steer the tilting ship to port, but was turned away by threat of naval force from Spain, France, and Portugal. What's important about the Prestige is how this moment of rupture caused a break in the calculated efficiency of the oil and shipping industries. Here, the flag of the Bahamas allowed the old ship to avoid the scrutiny at port it would have otherwise received. But the question is how similar tactics might be put towards different ends. The second case is the MV Aquarius, a former German Coast Guard ship used by SOS Méditerranée and Médecins Sans Frontières to rescue refugees off the coast of Libya. The analysis focuses on a particular day in 2017 when the ship, carrying 630 refugees on its open deck, was refused entry to Italy and then to Malta. After days of idling in the Mediterranean, the Aquarius was finally allowed to dock in Spain. And by August, Gibraltar removed the Aquarius from its registry because it was now being used for care instead of its stated purpose of surveying. The ship was then briefly added to and removed from the Panama registry, and now finally flies the flag of Liberia. The third and final ship is the Lengonaut, which is a tugboat used by the organization Women on Waves to deliver abortion pills to women from countries in which abortion is illegal. As with the Aquarius, the Lengonaut has gone largely unaltered since it became used for care. To subvert the jurisdiction of these different countries, the ship takes women from their shores out into international waters, where the Dutch flag turns the ship into a space of Dutch sovereignty, a space in which abortion is legal. They then provide the women with abortion pills before taking them back to land. So what these 3 cases show is that the sea is an ambiguous space which can inspire novel forms of organization. Drawing from these cases, a new shipping system is developed in which similar extra-legal tools are commandeered towards more equitable ends. The cargo ship is central to the functioning of global commerce, and yet like the port itself, it remains hidden. The ambition here is to make the ship public, and in this vessel, this is done firstly by changing the ownership model from a corporate to a cooperative one. Instead of being owned by a single individual, the ship is owned by over 300 people. These shareholders include ship workers, their family members, even dockers and other logistics workers. And each of these members gains access to the ship and to the port at which it docks. These members also hold sway over where the ship lands, with the ship's route passing the main seafaring countries: China, Philippines, Indonesia, India, Russia, and Ukraine. The ship itself is 230 meters long and can carry up to 5,000 standard containers. But of the fraction of the ship that isn't used for housing these containers, most of it is occupied by cabins or mechanical elements. The remaining space is what has been designed. Here, subtle architectural interventions emerge as a direct reflection of the cooperative model. On any big ship, the gangway is the first thing one encounters. It's the bridge between the vessel and the rest of the world. The crew members say that on other ships, dragging their baggage up the gangway at the start of their contract is the heaviest feeling, and going down 6 months later is the most joyful. But on this ship things are a little different, and the twin gangways are the first things to suggest this. Dockers and relatives alike are invited on board to join the crew, and once they do, they're immediately met with a big set of open windows. Peering through these windows they can make out the mess room, which is the interface point, a quasi-public space in the midst of a highly secure port. On other ships, officers and crew eat in separate rooms, but here they share not only with each other, but with other members of their cooperative as well. Those working on the deck hang up their oil-cake jackets and gloves in the entryway before joining strangers and fellow countrymen for a meal. This is about more than simply being convivial. It's about establishing and strengthening relations between workers along the global supply chain. The rec room is where the crew come to relax. It's made to be comfortable, bright and open. Behind the curtains, Skype booths are set up to allow for calls back home, as even with the crew passing home more often, being away from family remains the most persistent source of distress. In a standard cargo ship, every inch of space is squeezed for its productive potential. So for this ship to be configured in such a way that the worker is placed before the generation of profit is in itself radical. In this context, something as minor as having bigger windows becomes significant. The rec room also has a door to the balcony, where the seafarers have barbecues in the shadow of the emergency vessel. As much as it's about enjoying time spent not working, the presence of danger is never far away. With this more permeable facade, there is a greater level of contact between those inside and those working on deck, and even between those on the ship and others ashore. With the cooperative comes a more horizontal organization of the ship, and this configuration helps facilitate the sharing of responsibilities. While being cooperatively owned and operated is no panacea, it's what makes each of these interventions possible. It means that the ship is not beholden to the big shipping companies like Maersk or Evergreen. Instead, those aboard can choose to reduce the ship's carrying capacity in order to include things like a basketball court. And as the effect of these decisions accrue, the seafarers are able to and choose to remain in the profession for longer. The ship's interior is configured to be especially comfortable, with ample cabin space for each and every crew member. Other spaces include prayer room, basketball court, and gym are also introduced to promote well-being and conviviality. What's more, with the seafarers being part owners, they are assured secure contracts, and this adds a further layer of comfort. With the mess and rec rooms now more public, other rooms require more privacy. In the middle of a corridor, a concealed door opens onto a hidden space. This space is used as need be, sometimes as storage space, other times as a makeshift clinic. Here the fact of the ship being a hidden black box space is taken as an advantage. Today capital is generated as much in the distribution of goods as in their production. This places the cargo ship, along with the port and the logistics center, at the forefront of so-called supply chain capitalism. For now, these sites contribute to the flattening of space in the pursuit of frictionless circulation. However, if designed using the master's tools and a little tact, these sites might help to empower the logistics workers who attend the fragile choke points of the global supply chain. Either way, the implications of how these sites are designed reaches far beyond the sea.